The rain battered the windows of the old diner, each drop a tiny explosion against the glass. As Elena sat in the corner booth, her heart pounding louder than the storm outside. She clutched her coffee mug, the warmth doing little to steady her trembling hands, and stared at the woman across from her, Maya, who had just asked the question that could unravel everything. "Do you really like me?" Maya's voice was low, almost drowned by the rain, but it cut through Elena like a blade. For years Maya had teased her with a different question. "Do you like her?" It was always about someone else. A coworker, a stranger, a fleeting crush Elena might have mentioned in passing. Back then it was a game, a playful nudge wrapped in Maya's crooked smile, her green eyes glinting with mischief. But tonight, in this dimly lit diner on the edge of San Francisco, there was no teasing. Maya's gaze held something raw, something desperate, and Elena felt the weight of a truth she'd buried for too long. They'd been friends for a decade, inseparable since college, when Elena was a shy freshman and Maya was the fearless junior who pulled her into a world of late-night adventures and whispered secrets. Elena, with her soft-spoken charm and love for poetry, had always been the steady one, the anchor to Maya's wild, untamed spirit. Maya was a painter, her canvases bursting with color and chaos, her life a whirlwind of passion and impulsivity. They balanced each other, or so Elena thought, until the lines of friendship began to blur in ways she couldn't ignore. It started with small moments, a brush of hands, a lingering glance, the way Maya's laugh made Elena's chest ache. She dismissed it as admiration, as the kind of closeness that comes with years of knowing someone's soul. But lately Maya's questions had shifted. "Do you like her?" became "Do you ever think about me?" And now this "Do you really like me?" Each word was a step closer to a cliff, and Elena wasn't sure if she was ready to jump. Elena's voice cracked, her mind racing. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and greasy fries, but all she could focus on was Maya's face. Those sharp cheekbones, the faint scar above her left eyebrow from a skateboarding accident at 19, the way her lips parted slightly, waiting. Elena wanted to say something, anything, to fill the silence, but the truth was a knot in her throat. She'd spent years hiding it, convincing herself that loving Maya was a fantasy, a dream too fragile to touch. Because what if she lost her? What if this, whatever this was, broke them? Maya leaned forward, her leather jacket creaking, her eyes searching Elena's. "Don't lie to me, Elle. Not tonight." There was a tremor in her voice, a crack in her usual bravado. Elena knew why. Last week, Maya had come out to her, confessing in a tear-streaked moment that she was a lesbian, that she'd known for years but was too scared to say it aloud. Elena had held her, whispering that it was okay, that she was proud of her, but she hadn't dared admit her own feelings. Not then. Not when Maya was so vulnerable, so afraid of rejection. But now the question hung between them, heavy and unavoidable. Elena's pulse thundered in her ears. She thought of her parents, devout and traditional, who'd raised her in a small town outside Sacramento, where love was supposed to look a certain way. She thought of the whispers she'd heard growing up, the judgment cloaked in scripture. She'd spent her life trying to be the good daughter, the good friend, the good everything until Maya. Until the woman who made her question every rule she'd ever followed. "I don't know how to answer that," Elena finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared, Maya." Maya's face softened, but her eyes didn't waver. "Scared of what?" "Of me." "No," Elena shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. "Of losing you. Of what this means. I've never." She stopped, her breath hitching. She'd never said it out loud, not even to herself. The word lesbian felt foreign, terrifying, but also like a key to a door she'd been too afraid to open. Maya reached across the table, her hand hovering over Elena's. "You won't lose me," she said, her voice steady now, almost fierce. "But I need to know, Elle. I can't keep pretending I don't feel this. I can't keep asking you about other people when it's you I've been thinking about for years." Elena's heart stopped. Years? The word echoed in her mind, unraveling memories she tried to ignore. The nights they'd stayed up talking until dawn, the way Maya's touch lingered a little too long, the jealousy Elena felt when Maya dated someone else. She'd told herself it was just friendship, just love in the way friends love each other. But it wasn't. It never had been. The diner's fluorescent lights flickered, casting shadows across Maya's face. Elena wanted to reach out, to close the distance between them, but fear held her back. She thought of her family, her job as a high school English teacher, the life she'd built so carefully. Could she risk it all for this? For Maya? I need time, Elena said, her voice trembling. I don't know what I'm doing. Maya's hand dropped to the table, her expression unreadable. For a moment Elena thought she'd pushed her away, that she'd broken something irreparable. But then Maya nodded, a small sad smile tugging at her lips. Okay, she said. But don't take too long, Elle. I'm not good at waiting. The rain slowed to a drizzle as they left the diner, stepping into the cool San Francisco night. Elena's heart was a storm of its own, torn between fear and longing. She didn't know what came next, but she knew one thing. Maya's question had changed everything, and there was no going back. The weeks that followed were a tightrope walk. Elena went through the motions, grading papers, teaching her classes, smiling at her students, but her mind was elsewhere, caught in the gravity of Maya's words. Every night she replayed that moment in the diner, the way Maya's eyes had held hers, daring her to be brave. She saw Maya less, not because she wanted to, but because the space between them felt charged, dangerous. They texted, they called, but it wasn't the same. Maya was giving her time, just as she'd asked, but Elena could feel the distance growing, a silent ache that gnawed at her. She missed Maya's laugh, her reckless energy, the way she could make a mundane Tuesday feel like an adventure. But more than that, she missed the clarity she'd felt in that fleeting moment when Maya's hand had hovered over hers, when the truth had felt so close she could almost touch it. One Saturday Elena found herself at Maya's studio, a cramped loft in the Mission District filled with half-finished canvases and the sharp scent of paint thinner. Maya had invited her over, casual as ever, but the air felt heavy when Elena walked in. Maya was standing by an easel, her hands streaked with blue paint, her hair tied back with a bandana. She looked up and for a second Elena forgot how to breathe. You came, Maya said, her voice light but her eyes cautious. Of course I did, Elena replied, forcing a smile. She wandered the studio pretending to study the paintings, but really she was studying Maya. The way her shoulders tensed, the way she chewed her lip when she was nervous. Elena wanted to say something to bridge the gap, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she picked up a sketchbook from a nearby table, flipping through pages of vibrant sketches. Cityscapes, faces, abstract swirls of color. One drawing stopped her cold. A portrait of a woman with chestnut hair, sitting by a window, her expression soft and wistful. It was her. Elena's breath caught, her fingers tracing the lines of her own face, rendered with such care it made her chest ache. When did you draw this? She asked, her voice barely audible. Maya hesitated, wiping her hands on a rag. A while ago, she said, avoiding Elena's gaze. I don't know. You were just sitting there one day, reading, and I couldn't stop looking at you. Elena's heart pounded. She set the sketchbook down, her hands shaking. Maya, Don't, Maya interrupted, her voice sharp. Don't say something you don't mean. I told you I'd wait, but it's killing me, Elle. Every time I see you I want to. She stopped, her jaw tight, her eyes burning with frustration. I want to know if I'm crazy for feeling this way. If I'm imagining it. Elena's throat tightened. She wanted to tell Maya she wasn't crazy, that she felt it too, the pull, the longing, the way her world seemed to tilt whenever Maya was near. But the fear was still there. A shadow that whispered of consequences, of judgment, of losing the life she'd known. Instead she took a step closer, her voice soft. You're not crazy, she said. I don't know how to do this. I've never felt like this before. Maya's eyes softened, and for a moment they just stood there, the space between them humming with possibility. Then Maya reached out, her fingers brushing Elena's wrist, a touch so light it sent shivers down her spine. Then let's figure it out, Maya said. Together. That night they didn't kiss, didn't cross that final line, but they talked for hours, sprawled on the floor of the studio, surrounded by paint cans and dreams. Maya told Elena about her first crush, a girl in high school who'd never known how Maya felt. Elena shared her own fears, the weight of her family's expectations, the way she'd always felt like she was hiding a piece of herself. It was raw, messy, honest, and it felt like the beginning of something. But the world outside the studio wasn't as forgiving. The next day Elena's mother called, her voice bright but probing, asking if Elena was coming home for Thanksgiving. You should bring a nice boy, her mother said, half joking, half serious. Elena's stomach twisted. She mumbled an excuse and hung up, but the words lingered, a reminder of the life she was supposed to want. At school too, the pressure was mounting. A colleague, Mark, had been asking her out for weeks, his persistence wearing her down. He was kind, handsome, the kind of man her parents would love, but every time he smiled at her, Elena thought of Maya and her heart rebelled. She started avoiding him, dodging his invitations, but the guilt gnawed at her. Was she being unfair? Was she running from a future that made sense for one that might destroy her? One evening, Elena went to a local bar with Maya and their friends, hoping for a distraction. The night was loud, filled with laughter and music, but Elena couldn't shake her unease. Maya was her usual self, charming everyone with her stories, but Elena noticed the way her eyes kept finding hers, the way her hand brushed Elena's arm when she passed by. It was intoxicating, terrifying. Then, out of nowhere, Mark appeared at the bar, his smile faltering when he saw Elena with Maya. "Didn't know you'd be here," he said, his tone friendly but edged with something else. Elena's heart sank. She introduced him to Maya, who gave him a polite nod but nothing more. The tension was palpable, and when Mark left, Maya turned to Elena, her expression unreadable. "Do you like him?" Maya asked, her old question resurfacing, but this time it wasn't playful. It was a challenge. Elena's chest tightened. She wanted to say no, to tell Maya that he meant nothing, that she was the one who filled her thoughts. But the words stuck, tangled in her fear. "He's just a friend," she said weakly. Maya's jaw clenched and she looked away. "Right," she said, her voice cold. "Just a friend." The night ended in silence and Elena went home alone, her heart heavy with regret. She'd hurt Maya and she knew it. But how could she explain the war inside her? The longing for Maya, the fear of what it meant, the pull of a life she'd been taught to want. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was brave enough to choose love over fear. The next morning, Elena woke to a text from Maya. "Can we talk? Meet me at the beach." Her stomach churned with a mix of dread and hope. She drove to Ocean Beach, the November air crisp, the waves crashing with a rhythm that matched her racing heart. Maya was already there, sitting on a driftwood log, her leather jacket wrapped tightly around her, her hair whipping in the wind. Elena sat beside her, the silence heavy between them. The ocean stretched out before them, vast and untamed, a mirror of the emotions Elena couldn't contain. "I'm sorry about last night," she said finally, her voice barely audible over the waves. Maya didn't look at her, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "You don't have to apologize," she said. "But I need to know where you stand, Elle. I can't keep doing this, hoping, waiting, wondering if you're ever going to let yourself feel what I know you feel." Elena's throat tightened. She wanted to reach for Maya, to pull her close and erase the hurt in her voice, but fear held her back. "It's not that simple," she said. "My family, my job, I don't know how to be this person you want me to be." Maya turned to her then, her eyes fierce. "I don't want you to be anyone but you," she said. "The Elena I know is brave, even when she's scared. The Elena I know loves fiercely, even when she's trying to hide it. I see you, Elle. I've always seen you. But you have to see yourself too." Tears spilled down Elena's cheeks, and she didn't bother wiping them away. Maya's words cut through her defenses, exposing the truth she'd been running from. She loved Maya. Not as a friend, not as a safe, platonic constant in her life, but as something more, something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. "I'm trying," Elena whispered. "I'm trying so hard." Maya's expression softened, and she reached for Elena's hand, lacing their fingers together. The touch was electric, grounding, and for the first time Elena didn't pull away. They sat there, hands clasped, as the waves roared and the wind carried their fears away. Over the next few weeks they grew closer, tentative but deliberate. They went on walks, shared quiet dinners, stole moments in Maya's studio where Elena would read poetry aloud while Maya painted. Each moment was a step toward something new, something real. But the outside world kept pressing in. Elena's mother called again, more insistent about Thanksgiving, dropping hints about settling down. At school, rumors started swirling, whispers about Elena and Maya, fueled by Mark's hurt ego and a few too curious colleagues. One afternoon, Elena overheard two teachers in the break room, their voices low but sharp. She's always with that artist girl, one said. It's unnatural. The word hit Elena like a slap, dragging her back to the sermons of her childhood, the warnings about sin. She fled to the bathroom, her hands shaking as she splashed water on her face. Was this what her life would be now? Judgment, whispers, the constant fear of being seen? That night she went to Maya's studio, her emotions a tangled mess. Maya was painting, her hands moving with a fury Elena hadn't seen before. The canvas was a storm of red and black, chaotic and raw. What's wrong? Maya asked, setting her brush down. Elena broke. She told Maya about the rumors, the teachers, her mother's calls, the weight of it all. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this, she admitted, her voice breaking. I love you, Maya. I do. But I'm scared of what it means, of what I'll lose. Maya crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling Elena into her arms. You're not losing me, she said fiercely. And you're stronger than you think. We'll figure this out, together. They held each other, the world outside fading away. For the first time, Elena let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she could be brave enough to love Maya openly. But the fear lingered, a shadow that refused to let go. Thanksgiving loomed like a storm cloud. Elena agreed to go home to Sacramento, but only if Maya came with her. It was a reckless decision, born of desperation to prove she could face her fears. Maya agreed, her eyes wary but determined. We're doing this together, she said, and Elena clung to those words like a lifeline. The drive to Sacramento was quiet, the radio filling the silence with soft indie tunes. Elena's hands gripped the steering wheel, her mind racing with what-ifs. What if her parents saw through her? What if they rejected her? What if Maya decided it was too much? Maya, sensing her anxiety, reached over and squeezed her hand. Breathe, she said. We've got this. Elena's parents' house was a modest ranch-style home, filled with the smells of turkey and pumpkin pie. Her mother, Linda, greeted them warmly, but her eyes lingered on Maya, a flicker of curiosity or suspicion passing over her face. Elena's father, Tom, was gruff but polite, shaking Maya's hand with a firm grip. The tension was subtle but palpable, and Elena felt it in every forced smile, every careful word. Dinner was a minefield. Linda kept steering the conversation toward Elena's dating life, mentioning a neighbor's son who was such a nice boy. Elena deflected, her stomach churning, while Maya stayed quiet, her hand resting on Elena's knee under the table. The touch was a quiet reassurance, but it couldn't erase the growing dread in Elena's chest. After dinner, Linda cornered Elena in the kitchen. She's different, she said, her tone careful. Are you too close? The question was loaded, and Elena's heart raced. She wanted to tell the truth, to say that Maya was everything to her, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she mumbled something about friendship and fled to the backyard, her breath coming in short gasps. Maya found her there, sitting on a bench under an oak tree, the stars bright above them. You okay? She asked, sitting beside her. No, Elena admitted, her voice raw. I'm a coward, Maya. I couldn't even tell her we're together. I don't know how to do this. Maya took her hand, her touch steady. You're not a coward, she said. You're here. You brought me. That's more than you think. They sat in silence, the night wrapping around them like a blanket. Elena wanted to believe Maya, but the weight of her family's expectations, the fear of losing their love, was suffocating. She leaned her head on Maya's shoulder, tears slipping down her cheeks. I want to be brave, she whispered. For you. You already are, Maya said, kissing her forehead. It was their first kiss, soft and fleeting, but it felt like a promise. The next day, they drove back to San Francisco, the weight of the weekend lingering. Elena knew she couldn't keep hiding, not if she wanted a future with Maya. But the path forward was unclear, fraught with risks she wasn't sure she could face. Back at school, the rumors grew louder. A parent complained about Elena's lifestyle, citing her close friendship with Maya as inappropriate for a teacher. The principal called her in, his face grim. We're a small community, he said. People talk. I need you to be discreet, Elena. Discreet. The word felt like a cage, locking away the truth of who she was. She nodded, her throat tight, but inside she was screaming. That night she told Maya, her voice shaking with anger and fear. They want me to hide, she said. They want me to pretend you don't exist. Maya's eyes blazed. Then don't, she said. Don't let them take this from you. From us. Elena wanted to fight, to stand up and be proud, but the fear was still there, a shadow she couldn't shake. She loved Maya, but was love enough to face a world that might turn against her? Winter settled over San Francisco, the air sharp and cold, but Elena felt a fire growing inside her. She and Maya were together now officially, their days filled with quiet moments of joy, cooking dinner together, dancing in Maya's studio, stealing kisses in the rain. But the world outside their bubble was relentless. The school board was investigating the parents' complaint, and Elena's job hung in the balance. Her parents called less, their conversations strained, and Elena knew they suspected the truth. One night, Maya took her to a cliff overlooking the Pacific, the same one Elena had imagined in her dreams. The sunset painted the sky in hues of gold and pink, and Maya pulled her close, her arms strong and sure. I love you, Maya said, her voice steady. No matter what happens, I'm here. Elena's heart swelled, and for the first time, she felt the fear loosen its grip. I love you too, she said, and the words felt like freedom. They kissed, the waves crashing below, and Elena knew this was the life she wanted. Messy, scary, but hers. The next day, Elena made a decision. She went to the school board meeting, her hands trembling but her resolve firm. She stood before them, her voice steady, and told the truth. That she loved Maya, that she was a lesbian, that she wouldn't hide who she was. The room was silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Some faces were kind, others cold, but Elena didn't care. She'd spent too long hiding, too long letting fear dictate her life. The board didn't fire her, but they issued a warning. A compromise that left Elena uneasy but unbroken. She went home to Maya, who was waiting with open arms. I'm so proud of you, Maya said, tears in her eyes. You're the bravest person I know. Elena smiled, her heart full. I'm still scared, she admitted. But I'm not alone. They decided to move forward together, building a life that was theirs, not defined by others' expectations. Elena started writing again, pouring her heart into poetry that spoke of love and courage. Maya's paintings grew bolder, inspired by their shared journey. They faced challenges, disapproving glances, strained family ties, but they faced them together, their love a beacon in the storm. One evening, as they sat in their favorite diner, the rain falling softly outside, Maya took Elena's hand. Do you really like me? She asked, a playful echo of that night that had changed everything. Elena laughed, her heart light. No, she said, leaning in close. I love you. The journey wasn't over. There would be more battles, more fears to face. But as Elena looked into Maya's eyes, she knew they'd face them together. Their love a testament to the power of being true to oneself. And that was enough. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.